Well, I've got something new to read. The Ma.K Lincoln Report, Volume 3, Hund. Now, if you're not familiar with this is a series of books by Lincoln Wright, who I'll talk about in just a minute, that are all about Maschinen Krieger, a science fiction franchise that was started by Ko Yokoyama, Japanese illustrator and artist Ko Yokoyama, back in the early 80s, in cooperation with Hobby Japan, I believe is the name of the magazine. And he basically just hand built some models and they put them in the magazine and wrote stories about them. And they really became popular and took off, especially in Japan. But there were a few folks here in the U.S. who caught on to them and really became devoted followers of the lore, the genre, the whole everything surrounding it. Now, a few years after that, there were some things that happened that I won't go into, but the kits stopped being produced sometime in the late 80s, mid 90s, somewhere in there. There were the magazine articles. I think they quit coming out, and it kind of looked like it had just faded away. But then, because Ko Yokoyama loved what he was doing, he kept doing work, and things happened, and now we have loads of kits that we can build. And Lincoln Wright had joined Ko Yokoyama in his studio that produces these kits and the books and writes the stories and all of that. Sometime I want to say in the late teen, or not the late teens, but sometime 2008, 2009. It's in one of the books. I can't remember. But Lincoln is from Australia, but at the time he had been living in Japan. He had been living there a long time, was fluent in the language, Japanese, and got to know Ko Yokoyama and others and began working in the studio. And so as the popularity returned, as more kits became available and it became easier to get them here in the U.S. and other places in the world, he was able to be involved with that growth and to really have his name associated with the Maschinen Krieger franchise. Now, sometime around 2016-ish, I don't recall exactly, it doesn't matter for this video, but Link and his family, they relocated back to Australia. But he continued doing his Maschinen Krieger work on his channel and his website, Paint on Plastic, and began producing videos and, began his own Patreon campaign that really, if you're a Maschinen Krieger fan, you really need to check that out. And I'll put all the links down below in the description to all the stuff I'm going to be talking about. But a few years ago, he started off doing a book with AK Interactive, and I'll show you that later on. But then he began to do books independently. He's self-publishing, which is a huge undertaking to do. And he's calling these the Ma.K Lincoln Report. I know some people say M.A.K., some people say Ma.K., some people say Mac. I've always heard it Ma.K., so that's what I'm going to say. The Ma.K Lincoln Report, Volume 3, which of course indicates there's a Volume 1 and 2. I'll show you those later. But each one of these books combines Link's very deep knowledge of kind of the inner workings of being someone in the studio. He's still associated with Ko Yokoyama. This is not, now he's off on his own and he doesn't have any connection with Ko Yokoyama. This is an official publication. This is one that is, there may be publications about Maschinen Krieger, but to have the official blessing of Ko Yokoyama elevates it. And because it's thus official. And this is more than just a modeling how-to book. It goes into, this one less so than the others, but his first two, but it goes into a little bit of his history with the franchise, with Yokoyama, with helping to develop the look of these models in our modern expression, and to write the lore and to do the things that now here in 2025 we look at and go, well, this is Maschinen Krieger. So even though he wasn't part of the early history of the genre, he has certainly been a major part of it during its really just magnificent growth over the last 10 years. And I don't think I'm overstating it to say he's really helped bring the genre to people who otherwise wouldn't have been exposed to it themselves. I had certainly heard of Maschinen Krieger and saw every now and then I'd see a few Hasegawa kits down at the model shop. But they were always, I saw them and they were just, I saw these, I'm sure I saw this one. And at the time I was focused solely on aircraft, and I thought, yeah, that looks cool, but that's just not my, I'm like Austin Powers, that's not my bag, man. And I saw these, but I noticed that the guys that I knew who built them were really devoted to the genre. And then when I made a switch to science fiction, building science fiction, it kind of started watching Model Making Guru building Gunpla, and that kind of hooked me. He mentioned Lincoln Wright and paint on plastic, and I was introduced to that brand, and I was able to get to know LINC. And you can't, if you get to know LINC to any degree, you can't but not get excited. You can't not get excited about Maschinen Krieger. He is such a wonderful brand ambassador, and that's exactly what he is. I mean, that's an official designation. He has the international brand ambassador for Maschinen Krieger. And I got really excited about the genre and saw the possibilities of just the fun of painting and weathering them and all of that. And so I've had the privilege and the blessing of getting to know LINC as a friend, and I certainly count him as a close friend, that we communicate on a fairly regular basis. It's hard with me being in the U.S. and him being in Australia, but in fact, I was able to, when I used to do interviews, I was able to interview him, and you may want to check that out if I remember to put the link up here. The link to LINC. See what I did there? But anyway, let me start talking about this book. Now, when LINC released, I want to say it was volume 1, but it may have been volume 2. I don't really recall. I'm old. I'd gone through them, and I emailed him and I say, hey, because I was going to do a review of those, and I said, hey, is it proper to think of this as not so much necessarily a modeling book, but a coffee table art book? And he said, yes, that's exactly what his intent was, because as you'll see, there is modeling information in here, but this is the kind of book that you could, you see these books on coffee tables that have, pictures of the Tuscany region and touring through that, or here's one on, wooden furniture and, that. And this is the kind of book that you might lay out on your coffee table, and a friend may come over and flip through this and go, hey, this is pretty cool. Even if they know nothing about it, they may not appreciate the modeling content, but when they see the photos, they're going to go, oh, wow, this is really cool. So this is more than just your typical how-to book. I mean, there's a great need and place for how-to books, but this is a book that just really, especially for the Maschinen Krieger fan, pulls together the whole genre, the lore of it, the real world part of it, the execution of building and painting and weathering the kits. It's all pulled in here. And it's just a very, very good way to just continue in the hobby, to learn from, to be inspired from, to understand the lore. Because I think with any, especially with sci-fi genres, the more you understand the lore, the better equipped you are to kind of dive into what I call the narrative-based painting and weathering. In other words, it's one thing to paint and weather a model. You know, if you have a real-world example, say you've got a Spitfire, you have pictures. You know what that looks like. But when you're talking about science fiction, especially where you're not talking about something that's backed up by a movie like Star Wars or an anime like Gunpla, you know, and there's always the freedom. And Ko Yokoyama, I'll show you towards the end of the video, he really does mean it, that there's freedom in building these. You do it however you want. But it's always fun to know the stories and the universe around them and what's going on. And then this genre invites kind of taking it and extending it and making up your own extensions of the story and then applying that to the model. Why does it have the weathering that it does and the painting that it does, and, you know, that kind of thing. So this book just feeds that. And again, if you're a Maschinen Krieger fan, get these. LINC does them himself. He ships them out himself. He's self-publishing, self-shipping. I mean, he doesn't have the printing press in his house, of course, but once they're printed, they come to him, and he and his family, they send them out. So this is a labor of love for him as much as anything. But they generally have limited print runs. And so once they're printed, if you want one, you probably ought to pre-order it and get on it quick. I'm sure that there's still some available as of my filming this, which is early spring 2025. But you know, you'll want to check out his website and order these. Now, just because somebody's going to put it in the comment and ask, no, LINC does not even know I'm doing this review right now. He may see it eventually. He may not. I bought the book with my own money, and that's just what I did. I like the book. I like LINC, and I bought it, and I looked forward to it, and I've read them all, and I'm going to read this one. I've read this one, and I'm going to read it again, and I recommend them from the heart. It's not because someone's paying me to, or someone gave me a sample copy, or anything like that. I get these because these are good books. And while I don't have a huge modeling budget, this is something I will spend money on. Now, to get into this specific book, it's about, as you saw on the cover, a design called the Hund, which is a walking humanoid AI-powered shooty pew pew robot for the Strahl Democratic Republic. There's two factions in the Maschinen Krieger universe, generally, that I know of. There's the Strahl guys, and then there's the I guess you'd say the rebels, the people who were rebelling against the authority. It's all centered in the 29th century. It's been, the world was destroyed in a nuclear war. Everybody left the planet. Then they started coming back and repopulating. And as it got repopulated, there was a need for, for law and order. And so the Strahl Democratic Republic, who lived out in the stars somewhere, doesn't matter where, they came back in, and they got a little oppressive. And so the people living on Earth hired mercenaries, and the mercenaries in Strahl started fighting. And so this Stompy thing is one of the Strahl answers to how do we, do what we got to do. And there's variants of it. This book demonstrates all of the variants. Now, the variants are just kits, I mean, there's one of the wonderful things about Maschinen Krieger is that the models lead the narrative. With Star Wars, there's the narrative first, and then the models come. With this, the models lead the narrative, which is kind of a neat reversal. And so all of these are just variations of this same Stompy robot here. Now, you may look at that, and I joke about this myself with my friends. I'm like, hey, it's the same kit. It's just got one different antenna. But I say it jokingly because I love building them and I build them over and over. But if you think about it, it's no different than, say, when I was building aircraft. I love building Spitfires. And there's really three variations of Spitfires. I mean, there's some distinctions in a lot of other pieces, but there's basically the short-nose Merlin engine, the long-nose Merlin engine, and the Griffin engine Spitfires. That's it. Everything else is just some variant of wing or combination of armament or something like that. And so while I may joke about, with my friends, about building the same Maschinen Krieger kits over and over, I built 85 Spitfires. When I was building aircraft, I think I built 20-something P-40s, a dozen or more P-39s. So building the same kit over and over is really not that big of a deal for me. And I love trying out new things every time. So anyway, to get back to the book, it covers all of these different variants and tells the story of them, how they came about, how they were used. I mean, it really goes into the narrative of it. And the cool thing is, I used to wonder, okay, what's the difference between, the Maskin Ball and the Schwarzer Hund and the Luna Hund and the Grober Hund, and I know I may be pronouncing these wrong, the Cyclop, Clop Clop, maybe it's two coconut halves, Clop 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 Clop. Anyway, I used to wonder, this book tells me, this book goes through and says, well, they started with this one and then they needed to do something, so they improved it this way, and then they needed, goes right through it. And that narrative can help in your building to know, well, if this was an improvement on this, and you may want to factor that in. You may want to consider that. You may want to take it and go, okay, what would come after the Luna Hund? Let me take one of these kits as the basis and then add some parts and some features onto it and go with that. This book really helps kind of promote, it kind of feeds the imagination and just really gives some great ideas about how you in your own building can just immerse yourself in the whole Maschinen Krieger world. Now, there's an introduction that LINC just kind of talks about his history in it and how that came about, how this book came about, and just a brief introduction from LINC that's really interesting. And then it goes right into the Grober Hund and how it's named. With the Straw Democratic Republic forces, Ko Yokoyama is, and certainly at the time he started these, was a big fan of World War II modeling, both aircraft and armor and things like that. And so a lot of the aesthetic and the decals and the colors were derived from World War II aircraft and armor and things like that. You'll see that the Straw Democratic Republic has a lot of similar colors that you would have seen and markings that you would have seen on German equipment in World War II. A lot of the mercenary equipment you'll see has a lot of color similarities to British and American, but especially British, I think, and Australian equipment. And so there's a lot of those themes that carry through. So it has an element of familiarity, and yet you've got all these wonderful shapes and designs that are completely different. And it all just invites complete freedom of, okay, do what you want. But each of the chapters follows this, that it talks about the design itself, why it was there, and how it came about. And then it goes into just some aspects of building and talking about, for this one, talking about assembly, talking about a base, talking about, the painting and weathering and some of the products used. I don't think you would call this necessarily, I mean, it does go in numerical order, but it's not exhaustive in its coverage of the steps, but rather just kind of an overview of some of the highlights that that demonstrate the Maschinen Krieger style. There is a certain style that is associated with, I guess you would say, canon Maschinen Krieger, and then certainly LINC has his own style that he applies to it, which he describes in great detail. And so it goes through that, again, not in an exhaustive, it's a detailed fashion, but not exhaustive, and just shows you how he got the results for that particular build. And then this is my favorite part, quite honestly. This is the kid in me going, I don't want the words, I want the pictures. It has wonderful, wonderful high-resolution photography that you can really, you may have seen his work in videos, but there's nothing like getting a high-resolution photograph right up in your face. I look at these because my eyes aren't really great. I look at these through my optivisor, and I really look and see, okay, in the video I saw this, but let me see the details. And when you get this in your hands, it's really inspiring because you begin to see the fine detail that he puts into these, the little points that may not show up in video, but when you look at it in a photo, you start seeing the variations and the nuance that LINC puts into these. He is, this is my opinion, and I know LINC would probably blush at this. He might get mad at me for saying it, but while I love looking at the work that Ko Yokoyama has done and Max Watanabe, I apologize for butchering that, and other of the artists from Japan that really have brought this genre along over the years, honestly, the work that LINC does, I think, is the best of all of them. I think he's taken where Ko Yokoyama took this, and I think he picked it up and just ran with it and has extended the genre. And this is, of course, my view as an outsider. I've seen the Japanese publications, but I can't read the language. So, but when I just look at his work is so very good, and it's so very inspiring. I mean, look at this right here. I mean, you just see the textures, you see the variation in finish, you see the fine color detail, the changes, all of the little bits and pieces that in a video may not show up. This is a wonderful, wonderful representation of how good this work is. And so for me, it is a huge inspiration. I'll just pull up this photo and I'll sit there, like I said, with my optivisor and just look at it point by point by point. Now, I know how to do this. I'm not going to say I know how to do it at the level LINC does, but I know how, in general, I can look at it and go, okay, I think I know what he did there. I think I know what he did. But to see the combination of things and to go, oh yeah, look at just the little tiny points right there of interest that though very subtle, they add to the overall look. I note that and I try to incorporate that into my own work. So this book is wonderful for that. And I won't steal LINC's thunder, but certainly each chapter goes into the same kind of thing. Like you go into the altair, and then there's some aspects of building that. And once you get past the build part of that, then it goes back into the photography, and it just continues on throughout each of the variants, and each one has their own narrative story and shows how that particular look was achieved and some of the products that were done with it. And then you get more of the photos. So it really is just an amazing book in terms of if you're already a fan, this will extend your catalog of lore even further. And if it's something that you're looking at and you're going, well, I've always thought those were kind of cool, and this book looks really good, this is going to help really kind of immerse you in the world and help you have more fun with the modeling. You could buy a Maschinen Krieger model and build it and have fun with it and not know a single thing about the lore. But just as with anything else, the more you know about it, the more that I think you can kind of feel like, okay, I'm having even more fun with this, knowing what it's all about. What's the big deal with it? Now, one of the things that I thought was real fun to see on the back cover, it's just got little shots of each of them, just like that. Nice look there. But it's got a quote from Ko Yokoyama: "The modelers having the most fun are the best. Make sure you have the most fun." And I'm like, I love that he included that, because, I mean, what do I say at the end of every video? If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. I love that someone of the stature of Ko Yokoyama is an advocate of the same thing. I mean, yeah, there's certainly a point, if you're building, again, I'll use a Spitfire as an example. If you're building you want to show Johnny Johnson's Spitfire as it would have looked on June 6, 1944. You get a photo and you kind of execute that, and that's fun. This genre says, have fun however you want. Now, you can do that with a Spitfire, but if you say it's a Johnny Johnson Spitfire from June 6, 1944, and then you paint little purple elephants over it, I mean, it's not going to be real credible, even if you had fun. But this invites, I mean, look at the colors. Look at the variety of colors, the fun colors. Look at, I mean, yes, this is military equipment. Yes, it's a future, shooty pew pew laser combat and all of those things. But yet, look at the underlying, and I don't use this word lightly, but look at the underlying whimsy that's present to have fun with the colors. I mean, you've got yellow, you've got white, you've got kind of a salmon color, an orange color. You've got reds, you've got, yellowish, you got purple, you've got this turquoise and this, I mean, it's great colors, it's great shapes, it's all sorts of interesting points of weathering and detail, and it invites, okay, cut out chunks of it to represent detail. These are in 1/20th scale, so they're really big, so you can really go big with the weathering. This genre is squarely about having fun, because everything I've read about the lore says the original model was built just kind of like, hey, this would look cool, let me try this, as I understand it. And then that generated the story. And so it has its origins, as I understand it, and don't tell me otherwise because you'll ruin my illusion. It has its origin in, let's just have fun. Let's just do something cool. What looks cool? And that's one of the things I love about this book series. And remember, this is a series. The first one in the series covered the Mark 44 series of kits, and just this. I love this book. This was produced in conjunction with the 40th anniversary of Maschinen Krieger. This is a great book. This one on Luna Combat, Volume 2. This one, I love it. And now that I've got the Volume 3, I'm loving it. I'm already wondering what's Volume 4 going to be about. I really enjoy all of these. And again, all of these are purchased with my money. None of these are samples. None of these are, hey, I'm just going to give it to you for free because you're my buddy. These are my money, and I really believe that these are worth putting some money into. If you like having books, these are worth putting some money into, because they are informative, they're fun, and they're inspirational. And that, to me, is more important then, I love how-to books, but having the photographs, having the lore, having all of that rolled into one is just a really cool thing for me. And like I said, all of these LINC wrote, he did the photography. In a few cases, he's had a few contributors, some very, very famous contributors. But when they come back from the printer, he gets them in boxes, and he and his family, they put them in envelopes and they ship them out worldwide. So this is very much something that he has put his heart and soul into, and they are great, great books. One of the fun things that he included with the Hund, if you pre-ordered early with the Hund book, is I love the little stickers. I got a sticker of Bobby the Robot, his brand, and it's got this patch, this Hund patch right there. So I think that's kind of a neat addition that came with it. Now, if you're looking for more of a traditional step-by-step how-to, and this still goes into the lore, but AK Interactive put out, and this is by LINC, put out this sci-fi FAQ. If you've ever seen their FAQ series, I have their airplane FAQ by Daniel Zamarbade, and I love it. This is one that LINC did in conjunction with AK Interactive. There are other people who contributed to this. If you like this is a good book. I certainly recommend it. It's LINC wrote a book, and then AK Interactive said, we want to add more chapters. So they brought in other people and brought it in, and you can kind of, as you're reading through it, you can kind of say, oh, this is the LINC part, this is the not LINC part. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good book, but AK Interactive, they've paid LINC. If you get this, you're supporting AK Interactive, which is fine. I love the company, and it's good. But for me, I love these books because I know this is LINC. This is pure LINC. And once you get to know him, you get to know his enthusiasm and his joy in doing this work and presenting it to people and just sharing the enthusiasm. I mean, sometimes I think about it like, when we were kids and you're playing outside and somebody gets a new toy and they're all excited about it and they're showing it to everybody, that enthusiasm, that childlike enthusiasm. And I don't say that putting it down. I am fully a supporter of that. That's the way I approach modeling as a kid. Just coming in, and this is essentially LINC running into the playground with the other kids and saying, hey guys, look. That's what this is, and that's what I love about these books. That's what I love about LINC, is he always makes me want to build Maschinen Krieger. Always. I can be building anything else. And when I watch one of his videos or look at one of the books, I just feel like I want to put it down and go do this, because he really, really highlights the fun of it. Now, I apologize that this isn't showing up well, but another way that you can look at LINC's work is through digital publications. This is my Chromebook here, and I've got the screen brightness turned up as much as I can, but this light coming in on it, let me see if I turn that off. Does that help? Let me see if I turn these off. Hold on. Well, here, we'll go to kind of what is it on the desktop that you have? You have light mode and dark mode. We'll go to dark mode so you can see this, but here's one on one of the Mark 44 variants, the Hammer Knight, and it's just a digital publication that he's done that you can quickly order online. It's very reasonably priced, and again, it goes into the lore. It talks about timelines. It shows this how he does the work, and then of course it gives you the wonderful photos of the model itself. And the great thing about this way of looking at it is you can do that. I mean, how cool is that, to be able to just look around and really zoom in on detail and take a look at it. No, we're not going to copy it. Turn off. Well, whatever. My computer's giving me fits right now. But I'll put links down below to this also, but there are additional publications that you can get. This one is not as it's like one chapter kind of thing from the book, but it's not. It's different from what's in this book, and there are other digital publications that he makes available on his website. And again, all the links to LINC are going to be down below. So to wrap up, I highly recommend this book. I have enjoyed reading it, looking at it, examining it, being inspired by it. I think it's a worthwhile purchase, this whole series. I can't imagine that, even when it gets up to volume 20 or wherever LINC's going to go with this, I can't imagine that every one of these isn't going to be worth buying. I do, again, because my modeling budget is limited. I every time I get one, I just start setting aside a few bucks here and a few bucks there, knowing that another one's going to come, and I'll get that because it does inspire me. Because I do the modeling. This is one that I had done. This is my own work that I had done a video about, and there are points all over this model where I was inspired by LINC to do this. And these books really, I do put them to use. And then here's one that right now, as of filming this and as of the initial release of this video, this one has not actually come out on video. It will be out very soon though. And now if you're watching this sometime after the fact, then you can search around and find this one. But the other Maschinen Krieger models I built, every one of them, every single one of them had some part of it that as I did it, I thought, well, let me look at how LINC did this, or let me do that. I like to do, and one of the things that I like to do in all of my Maschinen Krieger builds is find some element that I saw LINC do and add it in as kind of a nod to my friend Lincoln Wright and to his work. I think it's fun to just be able to say, yeah, when I did this right there, there was some part on some model that LINC had done that was kind of like that, and I wanted to just do a nod to him that way. Like if you ever see that I do any of these SAF type suits, and there's this panel here, if you ever see one of those panels that's red, that's an acknowledgement to LINC. So as I get to the end of this video and as I talk about this book, I'm thinking, why do I build anything but Maschinen Krieger? Because I have so much fun with it. But then again, when I start building other things, I'm like, wow, this is so much fun too. Too much time, or too much model, not enough time. Anyway, get this book. Get this book. You'll like it. I really think you will. To wrap up, I'll just say, and this is, I don't know if he'll ever see this. That's okay if he doesn't. But to LINC, thank you for the books that you do and for the inspiration that you provide. And I know this is Ko Yokoyama's franchise. I'm not taking away from that, and I recognize that. And I appreciate his work. But LINC, I appreciate your work. I appreciate your work to inspire people, your enthusiasm for this genre. You are truly a great brand ambassador for it. And more importantly to me personally is you're my friend, and I am thankful for your friendship, that I can get in touch with you and say, what do you think about this? And you'll get back to me. And I can say, how's the family? And you'll tell me how the family's doing, and you'll say, how's your family? So LINC, thank you. Thank you to your family for supporting you in this, because I know this can't be the easiest row to hoe to essentially support your family on modeling. That's hard. And so I am so grateful for the dedication and the hard work and the sacrifice that you and your family make so that they can support you in doing this, and you can do this, and we can benefit from it. I'm grateful for it. All right, with all that being said, I'll do a final wrap up, and you know what I'm going to say. But, I feel like I'm in good company. So I'll just say it this way. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Happy day to you, friends. Bye-bye.